Chapter 1. A Bolt from the Blue. Salary slashed from 20,000 to 5. My name is Chunemo. I am 33 years old and have been at Star Technology for a full decade. 10 years is enough to simmer a hot-blooded youth into a seasoned veteran, the kind who steeps goji berries in a thermos cup. I am a Level 7 engineer in the R&D department, just one step away from the Level 8 expert tier. But I have never taken that step. It isn't a lack of ability, quite the opposite. From the underlying architecture to the core algorithms, I dare say there are few people in the entire R&D department who know the system better than I do. The reason I haven't gone for the promotion is simple. I don't have the time. I am the company's acknowledged captain of the firefighters. Whenever the system developed a strange glitch, a project server crashed in the middle of the night, or a client made some perverted demand, I was always the one left to clean up the mess. 10 years of consistent overtime left me with absolutely no energy to prepare the PowerPoint presentations and theoretical papers required for the assessment. My colleagues tease me, calling me the uncrowned king, doing the work of an expert but taking the pay of a senior engineer. I didn't really care. A monthly salary of 20,000 yuan in our second-tier city was enough to give me what outsiders considered a too comfortable life. I would clock in at 9 sharp, brew a cup of Longjing tea, slowly open my computer, check logs, and handle emails, calm and breezy. What they didn't know was that this comfort was bought with countless all-nighters. The automated operations and maintenance system and the warning mechanisms I built strangled 99% of potential problems in the cradle. When the system is stable, I am naturally at leisure. That's called technology changing lives. However, in the eyes of certain people, this comfort looked like laziness and a lack of ambition. That person was our new parachuted-in supervisor, Lu Hanyan. Lu Hanyan. Her name suggests something misty and soft, and she is indeed quite attractive, with a seductive look in her eyes and brows. But her style of conduct has nothing to do with mist. She is simply a tornado. Rumor has it she is the sister-in-law of our boss, Mr. Zhao. No one dared to verify if it was true. But the moment she arrived, driving a red Porsche and carrying an Hermes bag, her overbearing attitude silenced the entire R&D department of tech nerds like cicadas in winter. More importantly, she brought someone with her, Gao Jun, a pretty boy with slick back hair and a sharp suit, who dropped words like algorithm and big data in every other sentence. His resume was embellished to the skies. Ivy League PhD, work experience at big Silicon Valley tech giants. I glanced at it and sneered internally. With his amateurish skills in my eyes, he wasn't even as good as a fresh intern. I would bet anything that his PhD was an honorary product from some diploma mill. Yet Lu Hanyan treated him like a treasure, calling him our Ajun all day long in a cloying tone that gave everyone goosebumps. Anyone with eyes could see their relationship wasn't normal. In her first week, Lu Hanyan called a general department meeting. Standing on 4-inch heels, arms crossed, she swept her scrutinizing gaze over every one of us until it finally landed on me. Our R&D department is the core of a technology company. We need wolf culture. We need drive. Her voice was shrill and biting. I will absolutely not allow anyone to retire here or just coast along, taking a high salary while doing the easiest work and treating the company like a nursing home. This atmosphere must be stopped. Although she didn't name names, everyone present knew she was talking about me. I held my thermos, blew on the goji berries floating inside, and didn't even lift my eyelids. There's no point arguing with a layperson. My silence, to Lu Hanyan, looked like tacit admission and provocation. She gave a cold snort, changed the subject, and started hyping up Gao Jun beside her. To inject new vitality into the team, I specially invited Dr. Gao back from the United States. Dr. Gao has profound expertise in artificial intelligence and machine learning. In the future, he will lead us to conquer technical barriers and open up new business growth points. Gao Jun stood up on cue, flashed what he thought was a charming smile at everyone, and spouted a heap of hollow nonsense mixed with English buzzwords. I was bored to tears. At the end of the meeting, Lu Hanyan dropped a bombshell. To motivate everyone and implement a more reasonable compensation system, the company has decided to adjust the pay structure of the R&D department. The new salaries will be strictly linked to work saturation and project contribution. After the meeting adjourned, everyone felt uneasy. Only I remained calm. Let them adjust it. Of the core problems I've solved for the company, which one wasn't a top-tier contribution? However, I was still too naive. I had underestimated the extent of a woman's jealousy and stupidity. The following afternoon, I received an email from HR regarding a salary adjustment. I clicked it open and saw the subject line, Notice regarding position and salary adjustment for engineer Chun Mo. The content was simple. Given that engineer Chun Mo's recent workload has been unsaturated and he lacks initiative, upon the proposal of department supervisor Ms. Lu Hanyan, management has decided that starting next month, engineer Chun Mo's position will be adjusted from core system maintenance to basic operations, and his monthly salary adjusted from 20,000 yuan to 5,000 yuan. From 20,000 down to 5,000. In that instant, I felt as if all sound in the world had vanished. I hadn't ruled out the possibility that she would target me, but I never imagined she would use such a near-insulting method. 5,000? In this city, that's even less than what a fresh college graduate makes. I spent 10 years cracking the toughest nuts in this department and building the system into an impregnable fortress. Now that the system is stable, I, its builder, have become trash to be discarded at will. An immense sense of anger and absurdity washed over me like a tide. I looked up just in time to see Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun walking out of the supervisor's office. A smug, cold sneer played on Lu Hanyin's face. Her look was that of someone staring at an ant she had just crushed beneath her foot. Suddenly, I calmed down. I looked at the cold email on my screen, then at my reflection in the window, a slightly chubby figure, a weary face, and hair thinning at the crown from years of staying up late. For 10 years, I worked like an old ox, giving my all for this company and for the boss, President Zhao. I gave up countless nights with my family and turned down high-paying offers from headhunters time and time again. I thought my sacrifices were worth it. And what did I get in return? A single phrase claiming unsaturated workload wiped out 10 years of merit. Good. Very good. Lu Hanyin, President Zhao, you forced my hand. I picked up the thermos on my desk, unscrewed the lid, and downed the goji berries and hot tea in one gulp. A warm current flowed from my throat down to my stomach. The fire of rage in my heart gradually subsided, replaced by an unprecedented calm and excitement. You think I've been too comfortable? You think I'm only worth 5,000? Fine. Starting today, I'll show you exactly how a level 7 engineer who only gets paid 5,000 is supposed to work. I turned off all back-end monitoring systems, closed all code editors, and opened a long-neglected folder containing personal projects and technical articles I had written in my spare time over the years. At 5:30 sharp, quitting time, I grabbed my backpack and, under the shocked gaze of the entire department, was the first to stand up and walk to the time clock. Beep! A crisp sound signaled the official start of my life of quiet quitting. Ever since that day, I clocked out on time. I became a completely different person. The old me was always the last one to leave the department. If there was even the slightest ripple in the system, my phone would sound an alarm immediately. But now, I became the most punctual person in the entire company when it came to leaving. At 9 a.m. sharp, I would stroll into the office, clock in, and then spend half an hour brewing myself a cup of premium Biluakan tea. In the morning, I'd open tech forums to check the latest industry news or flip through a couple of pages of introduction to algorithms to cultivate my mind. At noon, instead of eating greasy takeout, I went home to have a hot lunch with my wife and child, followed by a nap. In the afternoon, I would appear at my desk at 2 p.m. on the dot and start working, tidying up my desktop, watering the plants, and then opening an online learning site to systematically study cloud computing and AI, subjects I never had time to research before. As soon as 5:30 hit, computer off, bag grab gone. As for the company system, alarms? Emails? Sorry, my job is basic operations, and my salary is 5,000. These core system problems are now beyond my scope of duty and pay grade. My transformation was visible to the entire R&D department. The way people looked at me shifted from initial shock to sympathy, and finally to a trace of envy. Old Wang, a veteran employee and front-end engineer who joined the company around the same time I did, sidled up to me while getting water and whispered, "Old Chun, Are you really just going to let this go? 5,000, that's just bullying. Why don't you go talk to President Zhao? I smiled and shook my head. Talk about what? This is the company's decision. Besides, isn't the way I am now pretty good? Clocking in and out on time, having time to spend with family, and even recharging my own batteries. 5,000 a month. I'll just consider it the company covering my social security and giving me a little pocket money on the side. Brother Wong opened his mouth to speak, but ended up just sighing. He patted me on the shoulder. You've got a good attitude. Still, you'd better watch out for Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun. I get the feeling they're up to no good. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Of course I knew what I was doing. Lu Hanyin cut my pay for one reason only. To force me out so she could legitimately let her little darling, Gao Jun, take over my position and salary. But I wasn't going anywhere. I was going to take that 5,000 and hog this spot. I wanted to see just what kind of tricks they could pull off without me, their firefighter-in-chief. The first few days were calm. The system I built was, after all, rock solid. As long as no one messed around with it blindly, there generally wouldn't be any major issues. Gao Jun was appointed by Lu Hanyin as the leader of the technical task force, spending all day with a few fresh graduates researching AI-empowered business. They spent every day in the conference room, making extravagant PowerPoint presentations filled with endless high-sounding buzzwords. Seeing her pretty boy so ambitious, Lu Hanyin smiled more often. Her gaze toward me grew increasingly contemptuous, as if to say, see, the R&D department runs just fine without you. In fact, it runs even better. However, beneath the calm surface, an undercurrent was already beginning to surge. On Friday afternoon, a colleague from the sales department rushed into our R&D section. We have a problem. Several entries of customer data entered into the CRM system this afternoon aren't showing up. Is there something wrong with the database? The CRM system was one of our company's core business systems. Data loss was a huge deal. Subconsciously, everyone's eyes turned to me. In the past, I could have pinpointed and fixed this kind of issue in 10 minutes tops. But now I was wearing headphones, completely engrossed in a tutorial video on Docker container technology, deaf to everything outside. The sales colleague got anxious, ran straight to my desk, and knocked on it. I took off my headphones and looked at him blankly. What's up? Brother Chun, the CRM system is acting up. Data is missing. Oh, I nodded, then pointed in Gao Jun's direction. That kind of technical issue falls under Dr. Gao's jurisdiction now. Go talk to him. With that, I put my headphones back on. The sales colleague, having been snubbed, had no choice but to bite the bullet and go find Gao Jun. Gao Jun was in the middle of presenting his AI strategy to Lu Hanyin. He was annoyed at the interruption, but in front of his goddess, he couldn't lose his temper, so he had to pretend to care and go check the issue. He opened the back end and typed a few Linux commands. Because he got the parameters wrong, the system immediately returned a bunch of command not found errors. His face turned instantly red. The young colleagues behind him gathered around, discussing it all at once. Is it a cache issue? Let me check the logs. The log file is huge. I can't see anything unusual. How about we try restarting the service? A group of people crowded around one computer like headless flies, messing around for over half an hour without even finding the root cause. Finally, Gao Jun forced himself to offer a conclusion. It's probably network fluctuation causing data packet loss. This is an intermittent issue and hard to replicate. Just tell sales to re-enter the data. Blaming network fluctuation and saying try restarting are recognized in the tech world as the two lamest ways to solve a problem. Sitting nearby, listening to his utterly amateurish explanation, I almost laughed out loud. What data packet loss? It was obviously because, in an attempt to optimize the system 2 days ago, he'd clumsily changed a database connection pool configuration parameter. This caused some write requests to be directly discarded under high concurrency. Such a simple problem, yet he couldn't see it. Although Lu Hanyin didn't understand technology, she could see Gao Jun's embarrassment. She glared at me fiercely, her eyes clearly saying, "Just you wait." I shrugged indifferently. This little incident was just the appetizer. The real storm was yet to come. I checked the time. 5:30. I packed my things and clocked out, leaving behind a chaotic mess and that incompetent buffoon of a doctor who was still feeling smug about solving a technical difficulty. Chapter 3: The First Crisis. The incompetent PhD exposed over the weekend, I put work completely out of my mind and took my wife and child to a country park. Watching them run and laugh in the sunshine, I felt that this was what life was supposed to be like. For the sake of that lousy job, I had missed out on too much. On Monday, I returned to the office refreshed and energized, only to find the atmosphere in the R&D department a bit off. Everyone wore long faces. Even the sound of typing on keyboards seemed to lack its usual energy. A small crowd had gathered around Gao Jun's workstation. Lu Hanyin was standing there too, her expression dark enough to wring water from. As was my routine, I brewed my Longjing tea, sat down, and turned on my computer. Beside me, Brother Wang scooted his chair over as if he'd just seen his savior. Old Chun, something huge has happened. Oh, I took a sip of tea and asked unhurriedly, did the sky fall? Pretty much. Wang lowered his voice, a hint of schadenfreude on his face. Our biggest client, the Tianhong Group, has been experiencing massive lag and frequent errors with their customized ERP system since last Friday night. They worked overtime all weekend, but couldn't fix it. Early this morning, a complaint call went straight to General Manager Zhao. Rumor has it Tianhong's CEO chewed Mr. Zhao out over the phone, threatening to terminate the partnership and demand compensation if it isn't fixed immediately. My heart skipped a beat. The Tianhong Group's ERP system was a project I had single-handedly managed. That system was deeply customized for them based on our company's underlying framework. The profit it generated annually accounted for nearly a quarter of our total revenue. More importantly, the system was incredibly complex, involving over a dozen modules like supply chain, production, and finance, with deeply intertwined data logic. In the entire company, apart from me, no one could fully understand it. How could it suddenly break? The system was fine before I left. I frowned. Who else could it be? Wang twitched his lips and jerked his chin toward Gao Jun. It's all thanks to that DR. Gao, last Friday, right after you left, he wanted to show off. He claimed our company's underlying framework was obsolete and insisted on using the latest microservice architecture he brought back from Silicon Valley to optimize and upgrade the system. He touched the underlying framework. My heart sank heavily. You bet he did. One looked disdainful. We all advised him against it, telling him the framework is the core and shouldn't be touched lightly. He called our thinking rigid and said we didn't know how to embrace change. The result? He and those apprentices of his blindly messed around and forced the update live that very night. And then, well, there was no then. I understood. It was absolute recklessness. I had spent 5 years honing that underlying framework bit by bit. Its stability and efficiency had withstood countless rigorous tests. A layman like him, who didn't even understand the business logic, dared to touch the core code directly? That wasn't optimization. That was demolishing the house's load-bearing walls. What's the situation now? DR. Gao has been leading his team to investigate since Saturday. Up until now, they haven't even pinpointed where the problem lies. The system logs are densely packed with null-pointer exceptions. It's completely unreadable. I sneered inwardly. Of course it was unreadable. The framework I designed included a core memory management module. He must have commented out my safety check mechanism for the sake of so-called performance improvement. Now, with a bit of data load, memory would overflow. It would be strange if it didn't throw a pile of null pointers. Just then, Lu Hanyin click-clacked over to me in her high heels. She looked down at me from above, her tone icy and carrying a command that brooked no refusal. Chinamo, come here a moment. You participated in the Tianhong project as well. Now that there's a bit of an issue, I need you to cooperate with Dr. Gao and solve the problem together. She actually had the nerve to say, you participated as well. I looked up at her exquisitely made-up face and said calmly, Supervisor Liu, I'm afraid that won't work. Lu Hanyin froze for a moment, clearly not expecting me to refuse so directly. What did you say? Her voice pitched up instantly. I said no. I repeated, pointing to my computer screen, which displayed the pay cut notification email I had just received. The email states very clearly that I am now in a basic maintenance role, responsible for daily server room inspections and powering servers on and off. The Tianhong Group's ERP system is core business. It is beyond my scope of work. My voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet office, it sounded exceptionally clear. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at me in disbelief. Lu Hanyan's face instantly turned a deep shade of crimson. She hadn't expected that I would use the very rules she set to shut her up. Chinemo, what kind of attitude is this? She trembled with rage. This is the company's most critical moment. Yet you're here negotiating terms and putting on airs? Do you have any sense of collective honor left? Collective honor? I laughed, a laugh tinged with bitterness. Supervisor Lu, when you cut my salary from $20,000 to $5,000, claiming my work wasn't saturated, why didn't you talk to me about collective honor then? Now that something has happened and you need this unsaturated employee to clean up the mess, suddenly you remember it? I stood up, looked straight in her eyes, and said word for word, a salary of $5,000 buys 8 hours of my time and my basic OM skills. You want me to do $20,000 worth of work? Fine. Restore my salary and position first. You are blackmailing the company. Lu Hanyan pointed at me, flustered and exasperated. No, I'm just abiding by our new contract. I spread my hands, looking innocent. Distribution according to work, more pay. That's what you taught me. Lu Hanyan was too angry to speak, her chest heaving violently. Beside her, Gao Jun's face looked terrible. My words were undoubtedly holding his feet to the fire. Admitting he couldn't solve it meant admitting he was useless. Denying it meant he'd have to carry this massive blame himself. Just as the atmosphere in the office froze to absolute zero, the boss, Mr. Zhao, pushed the door open and entered. His face was ashen, and he was followed by a frantic sales director. What is going on? Tianhong called again. They say the system is completely paralyzed. What on earth are you people doing? Mr. Zhao's roar dropped the office temperature by several degrees. Seeing Mr. Zhao, Lu Hanyan looked like she'd found a savior. She rushed up to him, getting her accusation in first. Brother-in-law, you're just in time. The Tianhong project has a small bug. I asked Shun Mo to handle it, but he kept making excuses and even used his salary to blackmail the company. Mr. Zhao's gaze shot toward me like a knife. Mr. Zhao Xingbong, was a man around 50. Having held a high position for years, he carried an aura of natural authority without needing to get angry. He and I had essentially made each other who we were. 10 years ago, he gave me a chance. I repaid him with 10 years of technical skill, securing his rear guard. Our relationship was less like superior and subordinate and more like comrades with tacit understanding. But now, his look was full of unfamiliarity and disappointment. Chinemo, is what Hanyan said true? His voice was low, suppressing his rage. I showed no fear, meeting his gaze and answering calmly. Mr. Zhao, Supervisor Lu only told half the story. I indeed did not go to handle it, but it wasn't about making excuses, nor was it blackmail. I am simply doing my duty for the basic O&M position. Basic O&M position? Zhao Xingbong paused for a moment. Clearly, he didn't know about my demotion and pay cut. He looked at Lu Hanyan, his eyes filled with questions. Lu Hanyan's face went pale, and she hurriedly explained, Brother-in-law, it's like this. A while ago, I saw that Chun Mo's work attitude was a bit lax. To motivate him and to optimize the department's labor costs, I adjusted his position. Lax? Labor costs. Zhao Xingbong's frown deepened. You moved him from monthly salary of $20,000 to $5,000. He asked the last sentence, looking at me. I nodded. Zhao Xingbong's face instantly became incredibly grim. He wasn't a fool. He knew my value to the company all too well. Removing me from a core position and slashing my salary by 3/4 wasn't motivation. It was cutting off one's own arm. He glared fiercely at Lu Hanyan, the fire in his eyes almost erupting. But in front of so many employees, he couldn't blow up. He could only force down his anger and turn to me, his tone softening a bit. Chinemo, this was an oversight in my management. Don't hold this against us for now. Put the company's interests first. Solve the Tianhong problem, and afterwards, I will personally give you a satisfactory answer regarding your compensation. He was making empty promises, giving me a way out to save face. If it were the past, I might have gone soft. But now my heart was thoroughly broken. I shook my head. Mr. Zhao, I'm sorry. This isn't about holding a grudge. It's a matter of principle. Once trust is broken, it's hard to rebuild. I no longer have that sense of belonging to the company. My words made everyone present gasp. This was tantamount to tearing off the mask of civility right to his face. Zhao Xingbang's face sank completely. Chinemo, what is the meaning of this? Don't you forget, I'm the one who single-handedly pulled you up from being a greenhorn fresh out of college to where you are today. The company hasn't treated you poorly, has it? Now that the company is in trouble, you're just going to stand by and watch. He began playing the emotional card, trying to guilt-trip me with his mentorship and grace. Mr. Zhao. I looked at him, a hint of self-mockery in my eyes. The company hasn't treated me poorly? Do you know how many all-nighters I've pulled for this company? How many crises I've resolved? My hair is practically falling out. In these 10 years, even if I didn't achieve greatness, I certainly put in the hard work, didn't I? And the result? Just because I stabilized the system and seemed idle, I became a target for optimization? In your eyes, do I have to be like a spinning top, turning endlessly just to justify my salary? My voice wasn't loud, but every word cut to the bone. The other veteran employees in the R&D department felt my pain. They silently lowered their heads. Now a so-called PD, who doesn't even understand database indexing, comes in, immediately draws a high salary, and becomes a manager. While I, a veteran who has served this company for 10 years, get kicked to the curb like garbage by you people. I pointed at Gao Jun, then at myself, and gave a bleak smile. Mr. Zhao, tell me, is that fair? Zhao Xingbang was left speechless by my question. His gaze swept over the pale-faced Gao Jun and the equally panic-stricken Lu Hanyan beside him, and he understood most of what was going on. He knew that this time he was in the wrong, but his dignity as the boss wouldn't allow him to back down. Fine, fine. Chinemo, you've got guts. He nodded repeatedly in anger. I'd like to see if StarTech is really going to collapse without you. He turned his head and roared at Gao Jun. Gao Jun, I don't care what method you use. If the system isn't restored by the end of the day, pack your things and get the hell out. Gao Jun shuddered in fear and nearly collapsed to the floor. And you, Zhao Xingbang pointed at Lu Hanyan. You too. If this isn't handled properly, you can forget about being a supervisor. With that, he stormed off in a huff. The entire office fell into a deathly silence. Lu Hanyan and Gao Jun became the focal point of everyone's gaze. Despair and fear were written all over their faces. Lu Hanyan looked at me, her eyes filled with venomous spite. She knew that all her humiliation today was caused by me. She gritted her teeth, walked over to Gao Jun, and lowered her voice. Jun, don't be afraid. He's just a slick old-timer, deliberately making things difficult for us. I believe in your abilities. You can definitely fix this. Gao Jun forced a smile that looked more like a grimace and nodded. Fix it? How? He couldn't even find the entry point to the problem. The next few hours were nothing short of a public execution for Gao Jun. He sat in front of the computer, flipping through code one moment, checking logs the next, and then frantically searching for something online. But to a true expert, all his actions looked like a headless chicken running around, completely chaotic. Time ticked by second, drawing closer to the end of the workday. The system didn't improve. Instead, due to his several failed attempts, it triggered a chain reaction in more modules, causing a complete paralysis. Calls from the Tianhong group came in one after another, the tone growing increasingly severe, shifting from urging to a final ultimatum. Layers of cold sweat beaded on Gao Jun's forehead, soaking his designer shirt. His hands trembled more and more violently over the keyboard. His prized Ivy League degree and the high-sounding technical jargon he always spouted seemed so pale and powerless in the face of a real crisis. He was completely exposed. As for me, I acted like an outsider, wearing my headphones, watching my online course, and occasionally taking notes in my notebook. It was as if the monstrous waves raging outside had nothing to do with the quiet little harbor I was in. At 5:25 p.m., I started packing up my things. At 5:30 p.m., I stood up, grabbed my backpack, and prepared to leave. Just as I reached the door, a hoarse and despairing voice rang out behind me. Brother Chun. Wait. I turned back to see Gao Jun standing up from his chair, his face flushed red, his eyes filled with humiliation and pleading. Brother Chun, I was wrong. I can't do it. I can't fix it. Please, please help me. He had finally bowed his head. Gao Jun's plea for mercy was like dropping a bomb onto the surface of a calm lake. Everyone froze, turning in unison to look at him and then at me. Their eyes were filled with shock and a hint of satisfaction. This arrogant, overseas Ph.D. had finally torn off his mask of disguise, revealing his true nature as an incompetent fool. Lu Hanyin stood to the side, her face ghastly pale. Watching the man she loved bow his head and beg for help from the person he despised the most, right in front of everyone. That humiliation felt worse than death. I stopped, turned around, and looked at Gao Jun, who was drenched in sweat and on the verge of a breakdown. I spoke indifferently. So, now you realize you're not up to it? Didn't you say earlier that my architecture was obsolete and you needed to use your latest technology to upgrade it? Well, did your latest technology upgrade you right into a ditch? My words were laced with thorns, showing absolutely no mercy. Gao Jun's face turned so red it looked like it was about to bleed. He hung his head, his lips trembling, unable to squeeze out a single word. Chun mo. Lu Hanyin finally couldn't take it anymore. She rushed in front of me and said through gritted teeth, "Don't you think you're going too far? Look at the situation. How can you stand there making snide remarks? What exactly do you want?" "What do I want?" I laughed, looking at her face twisted by rage. "Manager Lu, I should be asking you that. What exactly is it you want? To force me out, let your good-for-nothing lover take over, lose the company's biggest client, and bankrupt us down to our last penny? Is that what you wanted?" "I didn't," Lu Hanyin shrieked. "I just wanted to reform a department." "Reform? Do you understand what technology is? Do you understand architecture? You can't even distinguish between a code review and a unit test. What gives you the right to talk about reform?" I closed in on her step by step, my voice turning cold. "In your eyes, we hardworking engineers are just rows of salary figures you can edit at will. You only saw my apparent leisure on the surface, but you never saw the countless sleepless nights I paid to earn that leisure. An arrogant, ignorant amateur like you is not fit to lead us." My words were like sharp knives, plunging ruthlessly into Lu Hanyin's heart. She was scolded into silence, her eyes instantly reddening as tears welled up. The entire office was silent enough to hear a pin drop. All the colleagues in the R&D department looked at me with vindicated eyes. These were words they had wanted to say for a long time, but never dared. Today, I said it all for them. Just then, General Manager Zhao called Lu Hanyin's phone. Lu Hanyin answered with a trembling hand and put on speaker. "What's the status?" Mr. Zhao's voice sounded exhausted and hoarse. Brother-in-law not yet. Not yet." Mr. Zhao's voice instantly erupted in fury. "Mr. Wang from Tianhong is sitting in my office right now. He brought his legal team. He says if the system isn't back to normal by 6 o'clock, he's signing the termination agreement right on the spot. And he'll immediately launch legal proceedings to claim 30 million in business losses." 30 million. Do you hear me? The number 30 million exploded in the office like a nuclear bomb. Everyone gasped. Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun were scared out of their wits. Their legs went weak. "I'm giving you one last chance." Mr. Zhao's voice sounded like it was being squeezed through clenched teeth. "It is now 5:40. You have 20 minutes. If you can't fix it, you too can wait for the court's summons." The call ended. A deathly silence filled the office. Lu Hanyin clutched her phone, shaking like a leaf. She looked at me, the spite gone from her eyes, replaced only by endless fear and pleading. She knew that now. I was the only one who could save her. Her lips moved, but the words of beguiling stuck in her throat. She couldn't bring herself to swallow her pride. I looked at her and shook my head. Then, I turned around, walked to my cubicle, and sat back down. My actions stunned everyone. A glimmer of hope flashed in Lu Hanyin's eyes. I opened my computer and placed my hands on the keyboard. Everyone held their breath, thinking I was about to turn the tide. However, I simply opened a web page and logged into an account. It was the registration site for a top-tier domestic technical certification exam. I found a registration channel for the Level 8 Information Systems expert, filled in my personal information, and uploaded my documents. In the current employer field, I hesitated for a moment, but still filled in Star Tech. Then, I clicked Submit Registration. Having done all this, I stood up, grabbed my backpack, and glanced at the clock on the wall. 5:50. I walked over to Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun, who stood frozen like statues, and calmly said, "There are 10 minutes left. You two should get ready and think about how you're going to explain this to Mr. Zhao and Mr. Wang from Tianhong." Having said my piece, I paid them no further mind and walked straight toward the main entrance. Just as my hand was about to graze the door handle, Lu Hanyin finally broke. "Wait!" She rushed over and grabbed my arm. Then, under the shocked gaze of everyone present, with a distinct thud, she actually sank to her knees. "Chen Montak, Mr. Chun, I'm begging you." She clung to my leg, crying with snot and tears running down her face. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I failed to recognize a master when I saw one. I was blind and snobbish. Please, save the company, and save me too. With this kneel, her pride and dignity were completely shattered. I looked down at her, my eyes devoid of any emotion. "Begging me now? It's too late." I tried to shake off her grip, but she held on for dear life. "It's not too late. It's not." She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. "As long as you're willing to step in, I'll agree to any condition. I'll take the blame and resign. I'll make Gao Jun get the hell out. I'll beg my brother-in-law to give you a raise. A promotion. Just please help us." I paused. I looked at her, then glanced at the colleagues around us who were watching everything unfold. I knew my moment had arrived. I spoke slowly, my voice not loud, yet clear enough for everyone to hear. "All right, you want me to step in? Fine, but my conditions are simple. First, you and Gao Jun must bow and apologize to me in front of the entire department. Second, restore my monthly salary to 20,000 and add another 10,000 starting today as compensation for emotional distress. Third, and most importantly, I looked toward President Zhao's office and articulated every word clearly. I want the company to process my certification as a level 8 expert immediately, right now, and it must be personally signed and approved by President Zhao, stamped with the official company seal. My 3 conditions were like heavy bombshells detonating in the office. Each one struck precisely at the weak points of Lu Hanyin and the company. A public apology was a complete trampling of her dignity. A monthly salary of 30,000 was a ruthless mockery of her attempt to cut my pay by 5,000. And the level 8 expert status approved by President Zhao himself was the official vindication of my technical standing. Lu Hanyin remained on her knees, completely dumbfounded. She hadn't expected me to propose conditions so harsh and humiliating. She hesitated. The second hand on the wall clock ticked away, tick-tock, tick-tock, like a death knell. It was 5:52 p.m. Okay, I agree. I agree to everything. In the end, the terror of facing 30 million in damages outweighed her pitiful pride. She scrambled up from the floor, wiped away her tears, marched over to Gao Jun, and yanked him forward. "Apologize," she growled. Gao Jun's face was ashen, his body trembling. Under the gaze of dozens of pairs of eyes across the company, Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun stood side by side before me. Then they bowed deeply to me. "Chun, Engineer Chun, we are sorry." Their voices were hoarse with humiliation. A deathly silence filled the office. Then, someone, I don't know who, started to clap. Soon, the applause erupted into a thunderous roar. That applause was for me, but it was also for themselves. It was a cry for the dignity of technical personnel who had been suppressed for far too long. I calmly accepted their apology. Then, I took out my phone and dialed President Zhao. "President Zhao, it's me, Chun Mo." On the other end, Zhao Xingbong clearly paused for a moment before asking urgently, "Chun Mo, you're willing to step in?" "I am," I said calmly. "However, I assume Director Lu has already informed you of my conditions. Now, I need you to do 2 things. First, have HR draft a new labor contract immediately. Monthly salary of 30,000, position titled technical expert. Second, immediately sign and stamp my application form for the level 8 expert certification. Have these 2 items delivered to my desk within 10 minutes. Otherwise, the deal is off." "No problem. No problem at all. I'll do it right away." Zhao Xingbong agreed without a moment's hesitation. I hung up the phone and walked back to my workstation. That desk, which had once been a source of humiliation, was now the center of everyone's attention. I sat down, opened my computer, and placed my hands back on the keyboard. In that instant, my entire aura changed. I was no longer the slacker drinking tea and reading newspapers. I was a general about to charge into the battlefield. My gaze was intense, and my fingers moved across the keyboard so fast they were practically a blur. Black command line windows popped open and shut before me, as lines of complex code flowed from my fingertips. Colleagues gathered around, forming a dense crowd, row upon row. The silence was absolute. They stared at the operations on the screen, commands they couldn't even begin to comprehend. Their eyes filled with reverence and shock. This was the true power of the uncrowned king. Gao Jun had wedged himself into the crowd as well. Watching my hands work, his face turned from pale to green, and then to a deep purple. Only now did he realize that the gap between us wasn't merely the distance from the Earth to the moon. It was the vast expanse between a speck of dust and the entire universe. In less than 10 minutes, Mr. Zhao came running over in person, gasping for breath, clutching a brand new contract in a stamped declaration form. Chen Montauk, here's what you wanted. He placed the documents on my desk, watching my fluid, effortless movements with a look of mingled regret and relief. I didn't even lift my head, simply saying indifferently, "Leave it there." First, I remotely logged into the server and ran a custom script to rapidly clear the massive amount of garbage logs generated by the memory overflow, restoring basic system responsiveness. Then, working directly in the production environment, I used binary editing to locate the core framework code that Gao Jun had modified. When I pulled up that segment of code, the knowledgeable ones around me all sucked in a cold breath. They saw that Gao Jun, for the sake of so-called performance, had actually deleted the framework's most critical memory safety locks and data consistency checks. This wasn't just tearing down a load-bearing wall. This was digging out the foundation of the house. Moron! Old Wong couldn't help but curse under his breath. I ignored them. I pulled the original backup code directly from my personal repository and overwrote his mess. Then, recompile, deploy, restart service. The sequence of actions was seamless, flowing like water without a single wasted movement. After doing all this, I raised my wrist and glanced at my watch. 6:25 p.m. Less than half an hour had passed since I sat down. I picked up the phone on the desk and dialed the technical director of Tianhong Group. "Hello, Director Lee. This is Chun Mo from Xingchen Tech. You can test your system now." I finished speaking and pressed the speakerphone button. In the office, everyone held their breath, listening nervously to the sound from the other end. A few seconds later, a surprise shout came from the phone. "It's back! It's back! Holy shit, not only is it back, it's faster than before. Engineer Chun, you're a god." Boom! Thunderous cheers and applause instantly erupted in the office. Everyone hugged each other in excitement. A massive crisis that could have doomed the company forever had been effortlessly resolved by me in a mere half hour. I leaned back in my chair and let out a long breath. I looked at the excited faces around me, at Mr. Zhao's face, filled with the mixed emotions of a survivor, and at the ashen, despondent faces of Lu Hanyan and Gao Jun. I knew that from this moment on, everything at Xingchen Tech was going to change, and I, Chen Mo, would no longer be the old workhorse for anyone to push around. I am a king, and today I return. Chapter 7. Time for Reckoning. The Fate of the Incompetent and the Vixen. The crisis was averted, and the atmosphere in the office instantly ascended from hell to heaven. Mr. Zhao personally called President Wang at Tianhong. On the phone, he apologized profusely, made endless guarantees, and finally praised me to the skies, claiming that with a technical expert like me anchoring the company, the system was absolutely foolproof. Hanging up the phone, a smile finally appeared on Mr. Zhao's face. He walked up to me, patted my shoulder vigorously, his eyes filled with emotion. "Chen Mo, this time, it's all thanks to you. You really are the anchor of our company." I smiled, giving a non-committal response. Then, my gaze drifted past him, landing on the two trembling figures in the corner, Lu Hanyan and Gao Jun. "Mr. Zhao," I spoke slowly, "the crisis is resolved. But shouldn't we also settle accounts regarding the root cause of this crisis?" My words caused the just heated atmosphere in the office to instantly cool down again. Everyone's eyes focused on Lu Hanyin and Gao Jun. Mr. Zhao's expression also suddenly turned serious. Of course, he knew what I was referring to. He turned around, looking at his sister-in-law and her lover, a man who couldn't succeed at anything but was an expert at ruining everything. A trace of disgust and resolve flashed in his eyes. He knew that if he didn't give me and the entire staff an explanation today, he would lose all credibility as a boss. Liu Henyan, Gao Yun. He shouted sternly. The two shuddered, like prisoners awaiting judgment. You two, one an amateur ordering around the experts, the other incompetent, but pretending to be knowledgeable. You nearly destroyed this company. President Zhao's voice was cold, devoid of any emotion. From this moment on, you are both fired. No, brother-in-law, you can't do this to me. Lu Hanyin shrieked. She rushed forward, trying to grab President Zhao's arm, but he shook her off violently. Don't call me brother-in-law. I have no such relative. Zhao's face was filled with disappointment and anger. I made you a supervisor, hoping you would work hard, not so you could come here to date and throw your weight around. Look at what you've done. You nearly ruined my company. He then turned to Gao Jun, his eyes filled with unconcealed disdain. And you, what kind of bullshit-ridden PhD are you? I think you're just a fraud. The company reserves the right to pursue legal action against you. Get out of here immediately. I don't want to see you for another second. Gao Jun's face turned ashen. He knew he was completely finished. Once the label of fraud stuck, he would never be able to survive in this industry again. He shot a look of pure venom at Lu Hanyin. If not for this woman, perhaps he would still be in some small company, securely playing the role of a tech god. As for Lu Hanyin, hearing the word fired caused her to have a complete breakdown. Her biggest reliance had always been her brother-in-law, President Zhao. Now, that final straw had snapped. Zhao Xingbang, you ungrateful wretch. She began to make a scene, pointing at Zhao's nose and cursing. Back when your company had cash flow problems, who took out their dowry money to give to you? It was my sister. Now that you've made it big, you turn your back on people? Can you face my sister with a clear conscience? Shut up. Stung by her words, President Zhao turned purple with rage. I paid your sister back long ago, with interest. I, Zhao Xingbang, have a clear conscience toward everyone. The only ones I've wronged are old employees like Chun Mo, who have worked tirelessly for this company. And all of this is because of you, you idiot. He ignored the hysterical Lu Hanyin and shouted to the security guards, throw these two out. Soon, two security guards rushed in. Grabbing one each, they dragged the still wailing Lu Hanyin and the dazed Gao Jun out the door. The farce finally came to an end in the ugliest way possible. The office returned to silence. President Zhao composed himself, turned around, and bowed deeply to all the employees. Everyone, I'm sorry. It was my poor judgment in hiring and management that led to today's events. I promise you, from now on, StarTech will value ability over connections. Everyone who contributes to the company will receive the respect and rewards they deserve. After speaking, he walked over to me specifically and said in an extremely sincere tone, Chinamo, no, Expert Shun. Before I was confused. I apologize to you. I hope you can let go of past grievances and stay with the company to lead our technical department to new heights. I looked at him, but didn't answer immediately. I knew he was waiting for a commitment from me. I had signed a new contract and received the title of expert. In terms of benefits, I was already the biggest winner. But could the hurdle in my heart really be crossed that easily? I remained silent for a moment, but eventually nodded. President Zhao, let the past remain in the past. I chose to stay not because of his empty promises, nor because of the 30,000 monthly salary. It was because I saw the sincerity in his eyes and his sense of responsibility as an entrepreneur. More importantly, it was the look of trust and reliance in the eyes of my colleagues when the crisis hit. After all, this was the place I had fought for 10 years. I still had feelings for it. My nod made President Zhao let out a long sigh of relief. He knew that as long as I was there, the soul of StarTech was there. Good, good, he said excitedly, repeating the word. From today on, you are StarTech's chief technical expert. You are fully responsible for all technical issues in the R&D department. You also have absolute say in personnel matters. He was showing his attitude to me and to everyone else. The day after Liu Hanyin and Gao Jun were fired, President Zhao issued a formal appointment notice. I was officially appointed as the company's chief technical expert, with an administrative rank equivalent to vice president, fully responsible for the company's technical strategy, architecture design, and R&D management. At the same time, the position of R&D supervisor was left temporarily vacant to be managed by me concurrently. This appointment sent quite a shockwave through the company. Everyone understood that the once low-key and steady firefighter now held real power and had returned with a vengeance. The first thing I did upon taking office was to implement sweeping reforms across the entire R&D department. This was something I had wanted to do for a long time, throughout all those years of enduring in silence. I convened a department-wide meeting. Standing on the podium, looking down at dozens of familiar yet expectant faces, I didn't spout any impassioned nonsense. Instead, I presented my reform plan directly. First, abolish the ridiculous KPI system established by Liu Hanyin, which evaluated our technical staff based on layman metrics. From today on, we only look at three things: code quality, technical innovation, and online system stability. As soon as the words left my mouth, a cheer that could no longer be suppressed rang out from the audience. That set of KPIs had long caused endless complaints and unspeakable suffering among everyone. Second, establish a technical committee. I will lead it, and all senior engineers at level 6 and above will be members. All future technology choices and architectural plans within the company must pass the technical committee's review. I want technical decisions to return to technology itself, rather than being decided by some leader on a whim. This decision made the eyes of every core technical staff member light up. They felt a sense of respect and participation they had never experienced before. Third, establish a comprehensive promotion channel for engineers. I will formulate a new set of clear, transparent promotion standards from level 1 to level 8. When the ability is there, you get promoted. I guarantee that in our department, never again will there be a situation where someone does an expert's work but receives a senior engineer's salary. Speaking of this, I looked at old Wang and the others. Their eyes were red with emotion. My past experience was exactly what many of them were currently going through. Fourth, and finally, I announced that from today on, 996 and the culture of meaningless overtime are abolished. I require everyone to improve efficiency and complete their work within 8 hours. If overtime is truly needed due to a project emergency, the company will strictly follow labor laws and pay double or even triple overtime wages. I want you all to remember, work is for a better life, not the other way around. When I finished announcing this point, the entire conference room completely erupted. The applause lasted for a long time. Many people even shed tears of excitement. They had stayed in this company for so many years, yet this was the first time they had heard a leader dare to speak against 996 so righteously. Watching everyone's enthusiasm, I was filled with emotion. A good system truly can stimulate a team's greatest potential. After the reform plan was implemented, the entire R&D department took on a completely new look. The previous lifeless, panic-stricken atmosphere was swept away. Replacing it was high morale and a rich atmosphere of technical study. People started spontaneously organizing tech-sharing sessions to discuss the latest open-source technologies. Code quality took a quantum leap. System stability also reached the highest level in history. I tore down and restarted all the projects that had been turned into a foul mess by Gao Jun and his lackeys. I personally took the helm, leading the team to complete a refactoring upgrade of the underlying framework for all the company's products in just 1 month. The performance of the new framework increased by 300% compared to before, and stability reached 999%, the telecom grade standard. General Manager Zhao grinned from ear to ear looking at the weekly business data reports. Because of the improved system performance, user experience improved, activity increased significantly, and the company's revenue actually grew by 20% against market trends in just one short month. He now trusted me completely and delegated full authority. Basically, as long as it was a technical budget or hiring request I proposed, he gave it the green light without ever rejecting it. I also took the opportunity to recruit several technical whizzes from the outside whom I had had my eye on for a long time, further expanding our team's strength. Under my leadership, the technical department of Star Technology was developing vigorously at an unprecedented speed. And finally, I had the time to do some things I had long wanted to do, but never had the time for. I began publishing articles on system architecture and algorithm optimization in some of the country's top technical communities under the ID Silent God. I wrote a detailed technical breakdown of the audacious online binary hotfix maneuver I had used during the Tianhong project crisis. Once the article was published, it caused a huge sensation in the circle. In just a few days, the view count broke 100,000. The comments section was filled with various industry gods worshiping and kneeling in awe. Holy SHD, God-tier skills. Who knew live hotfixes could be pulled off like that? Silent God strikes again. Every time I read your articles, I feel like my coding education was a waste of time. The logic, the technique. It's simply a work of art. Where does a legend like you work? I looked at these comments and smiled faintly. I didn't reply. Masters must always maintain a bit of mystery. Little did I know, this casual post of mine had already caught the attention of another company. A new storm was quietly brewing. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. After surviving that near-fatal crisis, Xingchen Technology didn't collapse. Instead, under my leadership, it rose from the ashes, displaying unprecedented vitality. The company's product lines underwent comprehensive technical upgrades, and both user reputation and market share climbed steadily. A satisfied smile hung on President Zhao's face every day. As for me, I had firmly secured my position as the chief technical expert. In the company, my words, especially regarding technology, carried more weight than the boss's. Everything seemed to be developing in the most perfect direction. However, an unexpected phone call shattered this calm. It was a Friday afternoon. I was in my office looking at the architectural diagrams for a new project when a strange number called. I picked up. Hello, is this Chun Mo, Expert Chun? On the other end was a sweet-sounding female voice. Speaking. Who is this? Hello, Mr. Chun. I am Amy, a consultant at the executive search firm Bridge of Elites. Sorry to disturb you. Here is the situation. We have an excellent job opportunity we'd like to discuss with you. Is now a good time? A headhunter? I paused for a moment. Since reaching my current position, where my income and status had hit a peak, it had been a long time since a headhunter approached me. I was a bit curious. Oh, what kind of opportunity? Amy's voice held a trace of excitement. It's the top domestic internet giant, Tingyun Group. They are preparing a brand new, strategic-level AIoT, artificial intelligence of things, project and need a technical leader. The position is Chief Architect, reporting directly to the group's CTO. Tingyun Group? My heart skipped a beat. Tingyun Group was an aircraft carrier in the domestic internet industry. Its market value was hundreds of times that of Xingchen Technology. What did it mean to be their chief architect? The annual salary would be at least 7 figures, not counting stocks and options. To be honest, I was tempted. Although I was living well at Xingchen Technology, for a tech guy, a larger platform and more cutting-edge technology always held a fatal attraction. Why did they find me? I asked, feigning calmness. It was Tingyun Group's CTO, Mr. Li Ziyu, who personally asked for you, Amy said. He said he's been following a tech blog called Silent God and greatly admires the blogger's insights and technical depth. Some time ago, the article you published on online hotfixes absolutely astounded him. Through certain channels, he found out that Silent God is you, Expert Chun Mo of Xingchen Technology. So that was it. I never expected that my casual activity online would bring me such an opportunity. Li Ziyu, that name was thunderous in the tech circle. He was one of the earliest big shots in the country to research cloud computing. His technical level was absolutely god tier. Getting his recognition excited me more than earning 1 million yuan. Expert Chun, Mr. Li is very sincere. He wants to meet you in person to chat. Do you have time next week? I pondered for a moment. Honestly, I didn't plan on jumping ship right now. President Zhao treated me well, and the company was on the rise. However, meeting a giant like Li Ziyu for a chat would be a rare learning opportunity for me. All right, I finally agreed. I have time next Wednesday afternoon. Great. I'll arrange it for you immediately. After hanging up, my heart couldn't calm down for a long time. Tingyun Group, Chief Architect Li Ziyu. These terms were like giant boulders crashing into the calm lake of my heart, stirring up 1,000 waves. I didn't know what changes this meeting would bring to my future. Over the next few days, I was somewhat restless. I began searching online, gathering all the information I could about Tingyun Group and their AIoT project. The more I learned, the more astonished I became. It was an incredibly grand plan, aiming to build a smart ecosystem connecting billions of devices. The complexity and forward-looking nature of the technology far exceeded anything Xingqian Tech was currently doing. My passion for technology was reignited. On Wednesday afternoon, I took time off and went to a private room in a high-end cafe downtown. Li Ziyu was younger than I had imagined. He appeared to be in his early 40s, dressed in a simple plaid shirt and jeans, sporting black-rimmed glasses. He looked just like an ordinary programmer. But the moment he opened his mouth, his clear logic, profound insights, and precise vision of the future of technology won me over instantly. We talked for the entire afternoon. From underlying operating systems to distributed architecture, from machine learning algorithms to the future of quantum computing. We hit it off immediately, like kindred spirits who had finally found each other after years of separation. Finally, he looked at me and said with great seriousness, "Chinemo, come to Tungin. The pond at Xingqian is too small. It will limit your growth. I need a top talent like you to join me in conquering this vast universe of possibilities. I'll give you an annual salary of 3 million, plus 500,000 stock options. Come be my second in command, the deputy director of the Tungyun Research Institute. 3 million a year, 500,000 stock options. Deputy director of the Tungyun Research Institute. This wasn't just an olive branch. It was a mountain of gold dropped right in front of me. I completely wavered. Walking out of the cafe, I felt a bit dazed. The terms Li Ziyu offered were simply too tempting. It wasn't just the money and status. It was the stage every tech professional dreams of. I drove my car, wandering aimlessly through the city streets. In my mind, two little figures were fighting. One said, Go to Tungyun. That is a bigger world. That is your future. You cannot waste your talent. The other said, You can't go. President Zhao recognized your worth when no one else did, and he gave you a second chance. You helped him up when the company was in peril. Now that the company is finally back on track, leaving would be an act of betrayal. My mind was a chaotic mess. When I got home, I told my wife the whole story, leaving nothing out. She listened and fell silent as well. After a long while, she finally spoke. Honey, I support whatever decision you make on this. If you go to Tingyun, our family's life will reach a new level. If you stay at Xingqian, we are still living good life now. I just hope you won't harbor any regrets. My wife's understanding made me even more conflicted. That night, I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. The next day, sporting dark circles under my eyes, I arrived at the company. Subconsciously, I walked to the door of President Zhao's office. I raised my hand to knock, but then lowered it. I didn't know how to start the conversation. Just as I was hesitating, the door to the office opened. President Zhao saw me and paused for a moment, then smiled immediately. Chinemo, perfect timing. I was just looking for you. Come on in. I walked in and sat on the sofa. President Zhao personally brewed tea and handed me a cup. Taste this. It's freshly arrived to Hong Pao from Wui Mountain. I took a sip, completely distracted. President Zhao noticed my unease and asked, What's wrong? You don't look too good. Did you not sleep well? I put down the teacup, took a deep breath, and finally decided to lay my cards on the table. President Zhao, there's something I want to talk to you about. I told him about the Tingyun Group trying to recruit me, sharing everything except the specific salary figures. President Zhao listened quietly. The smile on his face slowly faded, replaced by a complex expression. There was shock, there was a sense of loss, but mostly there was a look of knowing acceptance. I knew early on that this small temple of Xingqian couldn't hold a great deity like you. He sighed, his voice tinged with a hint of bitterness. I just didn't expect this day to come so soon. His reaction surprised me. I thought he would be angry, or that he would try his utmost to make me stay. Li Ziyu is a remarkable figure. President Zhao looked at me, his eyes full of sincerity. That he scouted you is an honor for you, and an honor for me as well. It proves that my judgment, Zhao Xingbang's judgment, was correct. He stood up, walked to the window, and looked down at the endless stream of traffic below. Chinemo, don't feel any psychological burden. It is human nature to strive for higher ground, just as water flows downwards. That is the way of the world. You have already done enough for Xingqian. Without you, Xingqian would have been finished long ago. I cannot let my own selfishness hold back your future. He turned around, and a smile reappeared on his face, a smile that was magnanimous and sincere. So go for it. Go to that broader stage and unleash your talents. Don't forget, you were mentored by me, Zhao Xingbang. When you make it big out there, it'll make me look good too. Hearing his words, my eyes instantly welled up. I never expected him to be so magnanimous. I stood up and bowed deeply to him. Mr. Zhao, thank you. 1,000 words converged into that single expression of gratitude. What is there to thank me for? Mr. Zhao laughed heartily, walked over, and patted my shoulder. However, I do have one condition. Name it. In the future, Tingyun and our Star Tech need to stay in close contact. When you guys are feasting on the meat, you have to save some soup for us small companies. And you'll have to help us out on the technical side. Absolutely. I nodded solemnly. 1 month later, I completed all the resignation procedures. Mr. Zhao held a grand farewell party for me. All my colleagues from the R&D department were there. Although they hated to see me go, they were mostly happy for me and offered their blessings. Old Wang got drunk. He held my hand, eyes red, and said, Brother Chun, you are the most incredible tech guy I've ever met in my life, and the most loyal and righteous leader I've ever seen. From now on, you are an idol to all of us. I smiled and clinked glasses with him. On the day I left, Mr. Zhao personally walked me downstairs. Chinemo, he took an envelope out of his pocket and handed it to me. This is a small token of appreciation from the company. It's not a bonus, it's what you deserve. I opened it to find a stock certificate inside. Mr. Zhao had actually transferred 5% of the company's shares to me, free of charge. Mr. Zhao, I can't accept this. I hurriedly tried to decline. You must take it. Mr. Zhao's attitude was firm. You will always be a shareholder of StarTech and a member of the StarTech family. Come back and visit often. Clutching that heavy stock certificate, I could no longer hold back my tears, and they streamed down my face. I eventually went to Tingyun. On that larger stage, I took to it like a fish to water. Together with Li Ziyu, I led the team to create one technological miracle after another. A few years later, I became one of the youngest partners at Tingyun Group, with a net worth of over 100 million. Meanwhile, under my remote guidance and with resource support from Tingyun, StarTech also thrived. It successfully went public, becoming a dark horse in the industry. I often think back to that afternoon when my salary was cut to 5,000. If I had chosen to quit back then, or chosen to swallow my pride and stay silent, perhaps the me of today would not exist. It was precisely that unfair suppression that made me thoroughly realize a person's worth is not defined by others, but earned by oneself. When you possess irreplaceable strength, the whole world will make way for you. My legend began at StarTech and bloomed at Tingyun. And in the future, a vast ocean of stars still awaits me. The curtain never falls.